let me put something straight, because I think, sorry mate, a lot of people get this twisted. Now, we live in a world where it's so stereotyped, and you're going to hear me use the same words over and over again, probably across my videos and uploads, and that's because the same things that I'm trying to tackle basically are glued together by the same fabric, which is stereotype and judgment, ignorance, things like that. Don't get me wrong, all of us may have an element of those things, but I think the beauty of it is the more we share our stories and our ideas and communicate respectfully amongst each other and effectively, the more we can melt these barriers down and hopefully, be further on our collective journey of peace and balance, which I'm sure all of us want to some extent. We might all have our own ideals and ideas of it, but at the end of the day, we all have a common goal. And, I feel like at this current moment, there's a lot of talk around, self-worth, loving yourself, blah, blah, blah. If someone doesn't value you, take yourself away. If you don't, you're most likely desperate, this and this and this. Which to some extent that can be the case. That definitely can. But I think I always like to look at the flip side of things. And the flip side of that is some people, they might feel like they have, they have more options because they might be more socially affluent, or they might be more financially in a better position, what places them in a different demographic, therefore deeming them a wider, broader choice, of friends, acquaintances, prospective partners, so on and so forth, that are of a more favourable category, so to speak. But for me, those things are all superficial, I think they're important, don't get me wrong, because no one's going to purposely put themselves in a situation where you're going to be worse off. But at the end of the day, if we are talking about not being codependent and all the rest of it, then whoever you team up with shouldn't matter. Because if you're not codependent financially or emotionally, then whoever you bring into your life shouldn't be able to affect that, because you're already solid. And if you're not, then you shouldn't be one to comment on that or feel that way. And me personally, I just feel that obviously anyone you bring around you can affect what you're doing, how you're doing it, whether it be by influence, whether it be by just even their energy, rubbing off on you, or whatever it is, whatever it may be. But I do also believe that we can't allow those things to totally affect us, bearing in mind balance. Because imagine in a world then, for example, if we, shunned every single person that we may not feel is of our spiritual, emotional, social, or educational, whatever development yet. How would we learn from each other? How would these individuals have an opportunity to grow? And therefore, how would we continue to thrive in our environment? Because at the end of the day, the individuals that are a part of our communities and in our surroundings and our environments are all integral parts of the entirety. So if we only think about ourselves and our personal growth and our peers and our friends and family, which is wonderful, don't get me wrong, that should be at the top of the list, that's important. But at the same time, we have to think about external to that, like the area we live in, it matters about the behaviour of those people. So if we care to the extent of how it affects us, we also need to care to the extent of being willing to play an active role in changing that. That's the way I think anyway. I find, not a lot of people share this viewpoint, which is fine. But I've spent many nights analysing it, people's behaviour. A lot of people come to me with their problems, so I include that in my whole evaluation of things. And although I'm a week away from 34, I would say I've had a lot of bloody experience for a 34-year-old person. I've experienced nearly everything you can experience, apart from, traveling the world and things more like that. I mean, like life-changing things. I probably haven't had a death extremely close to me yet, which I know that's going to be a huge part of my character development that I'm not looking forward to, but I know it's necessary, But other than that, I've experienced, I'm not even going to go into that because that's for another upload. But I believe I've collected my badges, and from my experience so far, and don't get me wrong, there's others that probably are a lot more knowledgeable than myself, but I mean, in comparison to most of my peers, they haven't been through as much as I have at such an early age, and having to be so independent and not really have much of a childhood from such a young age, and it really does impact how you relate to others and how they see you. So yeah, and the reason why I'm saying that is because me myself, I'm probably coming out what people would call, and myself, like a low point in my life, and that's probably because when you're in a long-term relationship that's almost like a marriage, it really does take a lot out of you, and to rebuild your life from that, it's like one of the most challenging things you have to do. And on top of that, you're not just building your life all over again. You have to rebuild your mental. You have to rebuild your your peer group, because 9 times out of 10, when you have been with someone for so long, you share the same peer groups, so that all changes. And then you also have to, maintain your sanity and all the rest of it as a parent, and not let the children be affected by it as much as possible. And it's not an easy job. It's really not an easy job. Hence why I've lost quite a lot of weight on my face. I lose weight and I gain weight very quickly and easily. But again, those are things that don't affect me. A lot of others might even look at me and be like, oh my god, she's so skinny, or whatever judgments they want to pass, and I just think there's so much bigger fish to fry in the world, guys. Like, can we not get over those things? Can we not focus on better things? But I don't know, and that's why I get so frustrated with the world sometimes. I know that sounds like such a vast statement to make, but sometimes I just feel like I'm on the outside looking in at everyone, and I feel really different, and I do my best to kind of relate to everybody, and there's only a select few that I feel I can relate to, and they're usually the ones that have experienced so much to where they don't really withhold any judgment anymore, and if they do, it's purely based on the fact that they know whatever they're judging you on or what have you is something that they've experienced, and it turned out to be an unpleasantry, so therefore they're almost trying to give you wisdom as opposed to judging you and condemning you with no purpose, which I find a lot of people like to judge and condemn. Sorry, I live in the city. a lot of people like to judge and condemn with no purpose. I think it's all good to, pass your judgments if it has an actual purpose of you're trying to help that person realise their greater potential. But in as nice way as possible. Don't get me wrong, none of us are perfect. I do my best to, convey what I feel would be better for others as nicely as I can, and I try to be as respectful as I can. I hope that it's received well most of the time. Obviously, it doesn't go as well if it's people you're not very close with. But I find majority of the time I haven't really got any bad feedback when it comes to, me just advising people through love. And it's not like I think anything like I'm anybody special. But I just feel, when you've been an experiencer. Sorry. Where the hell he was going? I shouldn't be on the pavement, I know. When you've been an experiencer of a lot of pain, naturally people kind of turn to you, and naturally you want to nurture them because you're kind of trying to be the person for them that wasn't there for you, and personally that's the way I kind of correct that feeling of not having that outlet or that support at the time myself. I heavily believe in transmuting energy in the terms of you should always do your best not to return it, especially if it's not good energy. Having said that, you should always stand up for yourself though. I'm definitely a believer in that. And I'm a strong believer in that because I was growing up in quite a strict household, and my mum was always trying to gain control with a bit too much force, I think. So that manifested in me being quite a strong female, like a very assertive and highly stubborn female. So when I got with my long-term partner, of a total of 18 years, 13 without breaking up at all. We was very young when we met, so that's understandable. It's alright, mate. Mate, these bloody pedestrians. But I can't even remember what I was saying now. That bloody pedestrian threw me right off. But the main thing I'm trying to say is, I think we really need to decide how we want to deal with each other. Do we want to be compassionate and be there for each other and listen and support? Or do we just want to be cold, detached, emotionally unavailable to each other? Because we can't do both. And the way another individual acts is going to affect your behaviour. Don't get me wrong, everyone has their own choice of how to behave, and you've got to learn to control and contain your emotions, especially me as a female. Females are so much more emotional than men, so it's a lot harder. But at the end of the day, on a larger scale, if you want to step outside of just the responsibility of the individual, what about the responsibility of the larger collective? We want to be part of humanity, we want to be part of the larger group, but we don't want to assume any responsibility unless it's for ourselves. And we're barely doing that. Do you get what I mean? So, but yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments. I don't have any makeup on, so I don't want to hear no smoke about my appearance, yeah? And remember, I'm trying to teach you a lot. If you don't, fucking hell, bruv. If you don't know already, to, just feel free in how you are. If you want to get up every day and dress to the nines, that's fine. If you don't, that's also fine, but just make sure no one else is making you feel influenced to do so, apart from yourself. Don't do it because you think so-and-so down the road is going to judge you, or, whatever it might be. That's all bollocks. If you're doing it for those reasons, you're doing it for the wrong thing. And, if people don't understand you, it's fine. Just remain strong in your sense of self. Again, because I'm very different the way I think. A lot of things that I do, people don't understand it. And they get me misconstrued and misunderstood. And it frustrates the shit out of me. But at the same time, I don't give a shit. I think it more just frustrates me because they don't realise that with my whole being, I'm trying to represent authenticity. But what they would rather look at that as is, I don't know, she's all over the place, she's this, she's that. It's not that, it's just that whatever thing I'm experiencing right now, I'm not ashamed about it. A lot of people like to, handle your stuff in private and this and that, which I still do because I speak on a lot of stuff, but nobody knows what the fuck I'm really on about. No one couldn't tell me who, what, where, when, why. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So sometimes you've got to... Excuse me! Thank you, sorry. Sometimes you've got to master the art of saying a lot without saying a lot. And I think it's important to share as much experiences as possible. Because again, I go back to how we're going to learn from each other. And on top of that, if we do share experiences and we're met with ridicule, we're met with, people not wanting us to speak about how we feel or our experiences, then that's not really encouraging. So we're just going to keep going round and round in a loop in terms of growth as individuals and collectives like that. And we can lie to ourselves as much as we want and say we're still going to make progress. But until we make that leap of faith and we feel truly comfortable in humility amongst everybody, and then in addition to that, we can also trust those that are receiving that they are going to respect it and treat you accordingly, then that's when we made true progress. Until then, if we're only doing it amongst our friends and our social groups and our peers and our family members, that's great, because there was probably a point when we may have struggled with that in history. But I think by nature, it's screaming at us to take the next step into, evolution of the mind in regards to that, what I just said. So yeah, I was going to clock off not too long ago. So follow me on the YouTube. It was Jace Groans. Cheekbones are looking awful right now. It was Jace Groans. No, I've got Jace Groans still, tell a lie. And I've now changed Wing Chun Lily to Etherical Mea because there was some attachments to the photograph and the name that I felt energetically I needed to clear it. So that's what I did. However, I've had that nickname Wing Chun Lily for ages. So if you still want to mentally refer to me as that, that's fine. Visit me on my YouTube. Go to my Spotify, The Chungcast. If you want to join me in any of those, drop me an email. It's natkin87, that's short for Nat King Cole. natkin87@gmail.com. Yeah.